Hello, welcome to PC Jack. Last week, Valve announced their brand new handheld gaming console in the form of the Steam Deck. It's been long rumoured that Valve would enter the handheld gaming market, and it seems that is finally come to fruition with the Steam Deck set to take aim directly at the Nintendo Switch, which has dominated the handheld market over the last few years. Now you're probably wondering why I'm talking about this when it's not actually anything to do with PC building, but with its custom-built AMD Zen 2 processor and integration with Steam, I thought this would be an interesting announcement to take a look at. So, what we'll do today is take a look at what Valve has revealed, the specs, the general consensus on the Steam Deck, and also what it means for its competitor. So, on Thursday 15th of July, Valve officially revealed the Steam Deck, with reservations available from the 16th of July onwards, with an aimed launch around December of 2021. There are currently 3 models to choose from, which have the same performance but with varying storage capacities, starting at $399 for the 64GB version, $529 for the 256GB NVMe version, or $649 for the 512GB version, which, as well as using NVMe storage, also has an additional anti-glare screen treatment. In addition to this, storage can also be expanded further using a micro SD card. Now, before we go crazy looking at the prices on those higher end models, let's take a look at what you are actually getting with the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck features a custom designed AMD Zen 2 4-core 8-thread processor with a clock speed of around 2.4 to 3.5 GHz. It uses 8 RDNA 2 CUs with a clock speed of around 1000 to 1600 MHz. It has 16GB of LPDDR5 memory, a 7-inch 1280x800 resolution LCD display with a 60Hz refresh rate. In terms of connectivity, there's a 3.5mm audio jack, dual mic inputs, USB-C Bluetooth output, DisplayPort 1.4 with support up to 8K 60Hz or 4K 120Hz, and USB 3.2 Gen 2. There's 2 analog sticks with capacitive touch, a D-pad, face buttons, analog triggers, bumpers, assignable grip buttons, view and menu buttons, and a built-in gyro. There's 2 trackpads which Valve has claimed has 55% better latency compared to the Steam controller, a 40Wh battery that can provide between 2 to 8 hours of gameplay. Finally, this is all packed into a small footprint of 298mm by 117mm by 49mm, and comes in at around 1.47 pounds or 669 grams in weight. Additionally, this whole system will run on a custom-built SteamOS Linux-based operating system. However, there is even potential to install a Windows OS or a Linux distro instead. So with all those details and specs, what are some of the things we can infer from this information? So, despite being much larger in comparison to the Nintendo Switch, the Steam Deck is much higher spec'd in terms of performance. While Nintendo has their highly regarded library of games, there's no denying that Steam has an absolutely huge selection of games to play off their library, and the ability to play these on the go and not on a laptop is going to be a massive selling point for the Steam Deck. Despite having what seems like a fairly modest AMD Zen 2 processor for driving AAA titles, it's worth noting that with the release of AMD's FSR or Fidelity Super Resolution, which, if implemented in the Steam Deck, could make for some massive performance improvements, it's also worth noting that while running on an AMD Zen 2 design, unlike AMD's current APUs that use a Vega SoC, this handheld will use RDNA 2 graphics, which would greatly improve performance over their Vega counterpart. But it's worth saying that Ryzen APUs at the moment are already pretty well equipped for handling 720p gaming. In comparison, the Switch is currently using an ARM-designed NVIDIA Tegra SoC, with NVIDIA GM20B graphics on the Maxwell architecture, which, when compared to the Steam Deck, is a huge difference in terms of compute power. While battery life isn't particularly impressive on the Steam Deck, but with an APU that's running between 4 to 15 watts, the duration of charge expected while in use kind of makes sense. The official dock is yet to be scheduled for release though, and should come at a later date, but being able to dock it much like the Nintendo Switch and use it on a larger display with peripherals is going to be a massive selling point as well for the Steam Deck. But the biggest thing that Valve have tried to convey is that this is not a handheld gaming console, but more a handheld PC. Now this is the aspect that interests me the most, given the SteamOS running on a custom Linux operating system. Besides gaming, this should function much like any regular PC with the basic functionality of one. And you'll also be able to use the OS of your choice, whether it's Windows or any Linux distros. But it is worth noting we will have to see whether there are any issues with drivers or software compatibility when changing from one operating system to another. As it's running a Linux OS, in order to provide better compatibility with Windows games, it will be running Proton out of the box, which should help with any compatibility issues. However, some games with anti-cheat measures may have some sort of issues, but Valve are hoping that developers are going to take their time to better implement Proton and allow the games to run with it enabled. Now, the biggest point of contention is going to be the storage, and while the base model uses a 64GB eMMC flash storage drive solution, which is equivalent to PCIe Gen 2 speeds, and the more premium models using NVMe PCIe Gen 3 storage, it'll be important to see the difference in load times and whether there are frame pacing issues on the base model. Sadly, the internal storage seems to be soldered, which is a bit of a shame as you can't actually upgrade it, but you are able to upgrade your storage with a microSD card, which should alleviate this issue, but again we will have to see whether there are any issues with read and write speeds compared to the internal storage. Now, there's a lot more to discuss on the Steam Deck, but I would like to revisit that at a closer date to launch. For now though, I thought it'd be important to take a look at where the Steam Deck lies in Valve's current hardware history. Typically, Valve have been very reluctant to commit to their hardware, and it's not surprising given that the Steam storefront is their biggest money draw. We've seen this with their Steam machines, which never really came to fruition, and we've also seen it with the Steam controller, which died very promptly. However, they have had a lot of success with the Valve Index, which is highly regarded as one of the best VR devices on the market currently. Whether the Steam Deck is able to stick the landing too remains to be seen, but I'm really excited to learn more about this and also what it means for its competitor, the Nintendo Switch, moving forward. Maybe if the Steam Deck does well, we'll actually get Half-Life 3 as well. No, probably not. So, that's it for today's video. What do you think about the Steam Deck? Have you already reserved one? Let us know down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then please feel free to like and subscribe for more videos on the way soon. Thank you, I'll see you next time.